Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. My colleagues have already laid out some incredible arguments as to why hate speech should not be protected on campus, and I hope to provide you with the final arguments that you might need to vote no to the proposition that it should be protected. To the extent that the First Amendment does apply on campus, it does so to a very limited extent, as my colleagues have already mentioned. But I want to re-emphasize that free speech protections are not unlimited. Many of us in this room are law students or lawyers, and so we have learned this over the course of 1 to 3 years or many years in practice. But for those outside of law or the legal field, there's often a gut reaction to assume that all speech is protected. As Dr. Robinson already explained, the United States Supreme Court has made it clear that there are many categories of speech that do not deserve First Amendment protections, such as incitement, fighting words, or obscenity, just to name a few. The court has stated that the reason for withholding First Amendment protection for these categories is that such utterances are no essential part of any exposition of ideas and are of such slight social value as a step to the truth that any benefit that may be derived from them is clearly outweighed by the social or interest in order and morality. In other words, the Supreme Court has demonstrated that there is speech that provides such negligible benefit to society that it does not deserve protection. It follows then that if there are categories of speech that do not deserve protection, there are categories of speech that do deserve protection. This we are all familiar with, but we should ask ourselves, what is the purpose of First Amendment protection for speech? Alexander Meiklejohn, a 20th century First Amendment theorist whose ideas have been cited by the Supreme Court, reasoned that free speech protections are meant to serve and protect the democratic process. Meiklejohn theorized that as citizens of the United States, we are not just given rights by the Constitution, but also powers. In order to be a government of the people have to have the powers to self-govern through more than just voting, but also through public discourse and discussion. Following this logic, Meiklejohn explains that speech that contributes to the democratic process is the kind of speech that enjoys protection. This supports why incitement and fighting words are not protected. As the Supreme Court said itself, such speech provides such little value that it cannot be outweighed by the general interest in social order and morality. Hate speech, much like incitement or fighting words, also goes against the reasoning for First Amendment protections. A frequent comment in debates like these, and you have heard this tonight as well, is that hate speech is difficult to define. However, universities, legislatures, and courts engage in line drawing like this all the time. Just because it might be difficult to draw such a line does not mean we shouldn't do it. We should not let the perfect be the envy of the good. I argue that hate speech could be defined in such a way as to say, hate speech is abusive or derogatory speech about a person or a group of persons based on a membership in a group and that group's related immutable characteristics. These characteristics are ones that either do not change at all over the course of a person's lifetime or do not change without serious thought, time, and effort. Derogatory speech in this degree fails to meet the purpose of free speech protections, as I have discussed previously. In fact, speech of this nature has been proven to cause its victims to feel fear, exclusion from society, and has even gone so far as to result in severe physical violence. Jeremy Waldron explained it well when he said that the presence and allowance of hate speech in society signals to vulnerable groups that they do not possess an equal standing in society because of that speech targets their core personhood. If people do not feel that they are equal members of society or that they are allowed to engage in public discourse, this pushes them to the fringes and prevents their voices from being heard, which in reality harms all of us. And in effect, this serves the opposite purpose of the protections offered by the First Amendment. An inherent danger in free speech is its deterrence from discourse. It follows that if hate speech pushes people to the fringes of a community, hate speech has no place on a college campus. My colleagues have explained that colleges and universities are places of academic inquiry. As such, they have the discretion to decide that certain speech, including hate speech, is not permissible on campus under academic freedom. As Professor Crocker mentioned, academic freedom already allows institutions of higher learning to engage in content regulation and the compulsion and restriction of speech all the time. This is essential to the university's purpose to educate its students in accordance with its mission. Further, when you come to a college or university, discussions and debates are beginning at a higher level, both academically and morally. Through academic processes and evaluation of history, universities decide which research, teachings, and academic principles are permissible at their institution. One opponent even mentioned, who else will present to us the leading ideas but universities? Emphasize the fact that they said the leading ideas, established ideas, not the thoroughly debunked theories. Universities can and should fire a professor for teaching that the earth is flat because we've determined from academic pursuits that such an idea is wrong. In the same way, universities can choose to prohibit hate speech because they believe through academic pursuits and historical reflection that such speech is wrong. Institutions of higher learning serve a very important role in society outside of strictly academic pursuits as well. Many universities market themselves as living and learning communities where all engagement on campus can serve as a learning opportunity for its students. This includes student groups hosting events on campuses, sponsoring speakers, or engaging in protests on campus grounds. In this sense, universities function as a model for public discourse, not a true public forum. If you want a true public forum, you can step off campus and find one right there. But under the tenets of academic freedom, universities have the discretion to shape their individual models for public discourse in any way that they like. If a university has decided that hate speech is not conducive to public discourse, whether it be because the university doesn't want its students to feel denigrated from campus community, or because hate speech is often accompanied by the faulty or sloppy reasoning of ad hominem arguments or hasty generalizations, then a university can and should prohibit such speech. Such a prohibition would ensure that those members of the campus community that could be targeted by such speech can feel equal respect and dignity, and that they have the right to participate in academic inquiry as well as the living and learning community that is the university. Further, universities might determine that allowing hate speech on campus is not the premier method of teaching students about hate speech. A common concern about the prohibition of hate speech is that doing so stifles personal growth and learning social conviction. However, developing strong convictions against injustice is completely possible without experiencing it yourself. An individual does not need to be the victim of hate speech in order for another individual to learn that hate speech is wrong. In fact, we as a society have found many different ways to learn this without using human beings as justice guinea pigs. All of us likely learned in our schooling about great historical wrongs, including the Holocaust, the Jim Crow era, and Japanese internment. A common thread in each of these atrocities was how hate speech was used as a tool to achieve these wrongs. Through reflection and study of this specific history and other great wrongs in our society as well, we are able to understand that hate speech is wrong and dangerous. Further, many people have decided that any benefit that could be derived from viewing such speech is outweighed by the severe harm that it causes. As such, in an academic setting on a university campus, we feel no need to start this debate or inquiry on the potential value or utility of hate speech from scratch. We have already discovered that the earth is round. We do not need to discuss your theories on why the earth is flat first in order to get there. Accordingly, I ask you to vote no on this proposition tonight. Thank you.